Welcome to this explainer. I'm a licensed pelvic health physiotherapist from OVA Women's Health, and today we're going to uncover why the seemingly harmless, totally everyday habit of peeing just in case might actually be the hidden root of your bladder dysfunction and pelvic pain. Let's jump right in. So take a second and be totally honest with yourself here. Do you pee every single time you leave the house, just in case? Or, do you go every time you happen to walk past a toilet at a restaurant? Does just the mere thought of getting stuck in traffic without a bathroom nearby send your anxiety through the roof? I see this all the time. As women, we kind of just adapt our entire lives around our bladders. We start accepting these limitations as just part of being a woman, part of aging, or part of postpartum life. But you absolutely shouldn't have to micromanage your day around your bladder. Today, we're going to look at exactly what's going on in your body so you can finally take back control. All right, let's dive into this by clearly defining what we're even talking about here. Just in case peeing is that habit of urinating before leaving the house without a true physiological urge, or really just out of fear that you might need to go later. And I know it feels incredibly responsible, right? Like you're totally winning at adulthood by planning ahead. But what you're actually doing day in and day out is continuously training your bladder to hold less and less urine over time. You're fundamentally changing how your body communicates with itself. So here's the physiological reality of what happens when you pee too often. Your bladder is a muscle, and it's literally meant to expand. But if you constantly empty a bladder that hasn't fully filled, it never actually gets to stretch to its normal capacity. Now, inside your bladder are these things called stretch receptors. They're basically the sensors responsible for sending signals to your brain. When you continuously empty a half-full bladder, these receptors become overly sensitive. They start interpreting even tiny, completely harmless volumes of urine as this massive, urgent need to go. It's kind of like having a faulty fuel gauge in your car, right? Your brain starts totally panicking that you're running on empty, when in reality, the tank is actually half full. To see exactly where this glitch happens, let's take a look at how a healthy body actually urinates. Because it's not just a simple reflex. It's a learned, highly coordinated neuromuscular behavior. It's like a really complex dance. First, the bladder fills gradually. Then the brain gets the signal and decides, okay, is the timing socially appropriate? If it is, your pelvic floor muscles voluntarily relax. And only then does the urine flow easily and the bladder empties comfortably. This whole shebang relies on exquisite timing and coordination between your bladder, your brain, and your pelvic floor. It doesn't rely on force or strength. I hear women ask this all the time in the clinic. Okay, but what's actually medically normal? Well, here's the baseline. As a general guideline, a healthy adult bladder should comfortably wait about 2 to 4 hours between bathroom visits during the day. To put that into perspective, that equals roughly 6 to 8 voids per day. If you're going every 30 to 60 minutes, or you're waking up multiple times a night without a specific medical cause, you might very well be dealing with a habit-based frequency. And remember, peeing more frequently does not mean your bladder is healthier. You can actually feel whether your nervous system is communicating correctly just by tuning into the sensation itself. A healthy urge builds gradually. It's comfortable. Like if you need to finish an email before getting up, it's pretty easy to postpone briefly. Unhealthy urgency, on the other hand, well, that feels sudden. It feels panicky. It feels completely uncontrollable. Literally like you might leak if you don't sprint to the toilet right that exact second. That sense of panic, that's your nervous system severely overreacting. And unfortunately, so many women unknowingly agitate these exact symptoms just through their posture and physical effort on the toilet. Pushing to pee, bearing down, holding your breath, or, and this is a big one, hovering over a public toilet seat. These are massive mistakes. Doing these things actually increases your pelvic floor tension. When you hover or push, your pelvic floor is partially contracted, and that prevents the bladder from fully emptying. Over time, this reinforces incomplete emptying, makes your urgency way worse, and can directly contribute to chronic pelvic pain. Let's be real here, urination is supposed to be a relaxation response, absolutely not a strenuous workout. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point is, how do we fix this? You can start breaking the cycle literally today by adopting some healthy bladder habits. First up, pee only when you have a true urge, not just because you're leaving the house or happen to be walking past a bathroom. Second, sit down fully on the toilet. Seriously, no hovering. Third, relax your breath to really soften your belly and your pelvic floor. Do not push. And finally, just give it time. Don't rush it. Rushing trains your body for urgency, whereas a calm bladder is going to empty much, much more completely. Now wait, let me just be really clear here. Actually, scratch that. We aren't creating rigid, terrifying rules for you to follow. Occasional exceptions are perfectly fine and completely safe. It's totally appropriate to pee just in case after intercourse to prevent infections, or right before a really long road trip, or, once before you go to bed. It's the habitual, daily, multiple times a day, just in case peeing that leads to those overactive patterns and nervous system dysfunction. Context matters, and you definitely don't have to be perfect 100% of the time. When these habits do become chronic, pelvic floor physiotherapy can absolutely help retrain your entire system. But this brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions out there. The myth is that pelvic floor physio is just about doing hundreds of Kegels to aggressively strengthen your muscles. The reality? It's quite the opposite. When we're talking about bladder urgency and pain, it's almost always about learning relaxation, restoring normal muscle length, and regulating your nervous system. Because in reality, so many women dealing with urinary urgency, frequent voiding, and pelvic pain actually have overactive, really tense pelvic floor muscles. Your muscles are essentially guarding and clenching all day long. If your muscles are already too tight and having difficulty relaxing to just let urine flow, well, aggressively strengthening them with Kegels is literally the absolute worst thing you can do. It's going to make the pain and the urgency so much more severe. We actually have to teach those muscles how to let go and just drop. Let's move to the brain connection, because your bladder is intimately connected to your nervous system. Your bladder is incredibly sensitive to stress. When your nervous system gets stuck in a chronic fight or flight state, or if you have severe anticipatory anxiety, like you're constantly frantically asking yourself, oh my gosh, what if I need to pee and can't find a bathroom? Your bladder becomes highly reactive. This is exactly why bladder symptoms often aggressively flare up during stressful periods in your life, even when there's absolutely no physical infection present. It's all connected. And this is exactly where getting specialized help changes everything. At Ova Women's Health in Burnaby, we specialize in this exact intersection of pelvic floor and bladder dysfunction. We know that these symptoms are not something you just have to live with or manage. We provide a really safe, unhurried space where your pain is completely validated from the second you walk through the door, and it's treated through advanced clinical expertise, not just some generic advice. So what does that look like? Here at Ova Women's Health, we use specialized biofeedback tools to objectively assess your muscle activity. This isn't guesswork. We're looking at the actual data to identify if you're subconsciously clenching, how your muscles respond when you actually try to initiate urine flow, and your true ability to relax. By making the invisible visible, we can create a highly tailored plan to basically rebuild that broken trust between your bladder and your brain without making you rely on devices long-term. You've been incredibly patient, and you've lived with these frustrating, frankly exhausting symptoms for way too long. You truly deserve to live a life where you aren't mentally mapping out every single bathroom in the city. Scan the code to book your first unhurried, comprehensive consultation at Ova Women's Health today. Let's start restoring calm, control, and confidence to your pelvic health. And I'm going to leave you with this one thought. If your bladder has been dictating your entire life, what could you achieve if you finally taught it to listen to you again?